What's up, everybody out there on YouTube? Bryce and Michael RC here, and today we're going to be going through a little bit of a discussion about TPU. I'm using the Creality Ender 3 for this particular model here, but I've also printed TPU on the Anycubic i3 Mega, and those two machines are way different when it comes to printing TPU. Here's the thing about TPU. Gotta go slow. So a print like this, that typically on my Anycubic would take probably about 4 hours with PLA, and on the Creality probably about 3.5 hours to print this with PLA, and print a pretty decent one as well. I'll show you the front piece of the first one that I printed in PLA. It's not too bad, but it was PLA, so when I tried, this is meant to fit tight around your GoPro, so when I shoved my GoPro into it, it split the PLA. And it was kind of just a test print anyways. You guys know that my Creality Ender 3 was down. And this was the first print that I printed on it in PLA. Just as a test. I like doing this with GoPro stuff. Because there's a lot of GoPro stuff that's made for quads. And I don't fly mini quads anymore, but I still have GoPros. And I still use GoPros for stuff. And so I'll usually take it and I'll take off the mini quad connections. And I'll put on a regular mount and just use it that way. So I've done this to several different cases just so I can have whichever ones I want. I'm going to be printing off a few different examples of this. Like I just showed you, the one in PLA looked pretty nice. It was super quick. It was 3.5 hours. You can see this one is 7.5 hours here. And the one that I printed prior to this that I'm going to be showing you guys at the end of this video, that was a 5.5, 6 hour print, I think. No, it wasn't. That one was in the recommended settings. I just went with Cura's complete recommended settings, and then I got on the Creality. I manually put in the correct temperature, and I manually slowed down the print to 60, and it only took about 6 hours to print. But because of some of the manual settings, I didn't really like it, so I'm going in here and doing some of my own personal settings on it. If you've got some better settings for TPU for the Creality Ender 3, feel free to go in the comments and kind of just leave your settings on here if you guys would like. It would definitely help other people out that are doing TPU. When I'm printing TPU, you want to use extra fine or fine. The reason being is because TPU is very sensitive in printing, and it can goop up and gooey, and if it's not set right, if you have a Bowden extruder like I do, it can get tangled up. If you have your regular profile here set too low, you know, if you have a 0.15 or 0.2 or something like that, you can definitely see in the finished product the lines and stuff. TPU is very shiny, and so I mean it kind of takes away from the detail and stuff. Anyways, so we've got a layer height of 0.1. We've got a skirt brim on it that's 0.4. The shell, I've got 0.8, but you can make the wall and the shell a little thicker if you want. Not a bad idea. Makes it a little bit tougher because TPU is very flexible. Very flexible, basic TPU. And if you make it too thin, then it's going to be way too flexible. And in that previous print that I did, when I reset all the stuff manually on the Creality Ender 3, I'll show you guys just how flexible that is and how the GoPro doesn't like to stay in it as well. It's not as tight of a fit, and that's because it's so thin. It has no rigid support in it at all. This one's a little bit better than what I had, so I'm going to go ahead and keep these settings for now. Your infill, now typically, because I do cosplay for the most part, infill doesn't really matter all that much to me because I'm reinforcing stuff with Bondo, and I'm reinforcing the insides of my helmets with fiberglass, and so I'm strengthening mine up manually on my own. So I typically have the infill density set at about 3 to 5%. Not really all that necessary for PLA. PLA is rigid enough that it pretty much stands on its own. But the infill density on TPU, like I said, it makes it a little bit, gives it a little bit more rigidity. Makes it a little bit stronger and tougher and less flexible because you have a little bit more compacted inside the walls. So I'm going to keep that at 20%. We'll go ahead and put a layer view on this and see what 20% looks like. My computer's running slow, so while that's setting up, we're going to go... I did the grid pattern, which is just the grid, crisscross. Just to me, that's the best infill. There's these other infills, I like to use them sometimes for like faster infill. If I need infill and I need it to be faster and use less plastic, then I'll use something else. My temperature, a lot of people swear by TPU being a lower temperature, but I'm using a really cheap $13 roll of TPU. It's very, very flexible. And for some reason, I find that if I set it at 230, it just prints better. Basic TPU settings here. 60 degrees on the build plate. A lot of people use 50. I like to use 60. And a lot of people say not to enable retraction on TPU. I've been enabling retraction. It doesn't really matter much on the Creality Ender 3. It actually does a really good job, but I'm going to go ahead and enable it for now. Kind of see the difference that it makes in the print. So your speeds, the print speed and infill speed are the same. The support speed is the support speed is the same. It's all 60. One thing about TPU that I've noticed is you want to match up all these numbers. So your travel speed here on a Creality Ender 3, typical Cura, would be about 120 millimeters a second. So I bump this down to whatever these are. The best TPU ones that I've had have actually been 50. But 60 still looks pretty good on the Creality Ender 3. On the Anycubic i3 Mega that I have to go 50 on these. Other settings here, basically the same as PLA. Enable cooling. Generate support. Now, when it comes to TPU and support, it doesn't just break away like PLA. You have to kind of tear it away, so the more support you put on it, the worse your print's going to look. So that's why it's set sideways like this. I'm trying to use the least amount of support as possible. In fact, the most support is down here and in this open area. So this has a big open area for the camera. Right there you can see. And the bulk of the skull detail is right here. So I'm trying to put all the support here and here. I could turn this different ways and get the support different, but that's the whole reason why it's turned sideways like this. To me, I think it's just the best way to do it. If you put too much support, this little area here could kind of build wrong. And if you put too little support, then if the support doesn't build up correctly, then this whole area right here can end up being messed up. The whole inside under here can be messed up, and the whole underside of here. So there's kind of a fine line to go when it goes to supporting TPU, because you don't want too much and really have to mess up your print to try to get the support off, because you're kind of just tearing it away. It still sticks to it. And you don't want to put too little because you still want that fine detail. It's not as rigid as PLA, so it's not just going to lay across it. If I was printing this in PLA, the support here would be about 3%. But I'm going to do 10% on TPU. I probably should do about 15%. In fact, I'm going to look at this real quick. Look at that grid support on the inside. That, to me, is still not enough. You can see that grid there. And the grid there. So I don't think that's enough. I'm going to put a little bit more infill on that. I think 10% with a grid will be perfect. And I may do 15% on support density. I want this to be a little bit, give it a little bit more rigidity. I want it to be a little bit tougher. Okay, so now you see the support here is in square columns like that. And that's quite a bit of infill. That's good. I really like that. Yeah, I think that's going to be plenty of support. I like that. I think that's going to work. Because I really don't want any drooping. That's the problem with TPU, is if you have the support too spaced out, it'll go across and droop. PLA goes straight across. I mean, you can have a pretty wide gap and it's rigid enough to just go straight across. But TPU droops. Well, the TPU I have droops pretty bad. So that is the settings, and we're going to go ahead and print this out. And once this gets printed out, I've got one printing. You can probably hear the printer behind me now. That's the second one that I'm doing at a little bit slower rate. So I'm going to show you guys those two and kind of tell you the differences in those. And this is going to be my final one. And this is the type of thing you want to do with TPU. Don't just get a setting that you're just fine with, you know. Really go through this. Find you something small like this, something that you need, that you could use plenty of or something like that. And go with a couple first settings, you know, just kind of play around with it, see what you can take off, put back on, you know, until you get the perfect settings. I'm not saying that this is going to be the perfect settings. In fact, I'm not even going to end this video. It's going to be titled The Perfect Settings, but I'm not going to end this video probably with the perfect settings, unless this ends up suddenly being the perfect settings, because this is the last one that I'm going to go with for this video. Then I'm probably going to play around with it some more. You guys know that I've already printed TPU on this, and I've gotten some really good results. It kind of all depends on the piece itself. I'll print pieces that don't really need any support, and I can print them faster with less infill and stuff, and they'll still look really good because they don't generate any support. But this is kind of just for more detailed pieces, perfect settings for detailed pieces, smaller pieces. And we're going to try to get the perfect one eventually. And once I get to that, I'll kind of make a video and show you guys all of my settings on it. But that's kind of what you want to do with TPU, is just find you something and just go through here and remember those main things about TPU, is that TPU isn't as rigid as PLA, so it will droop if the spacing and the support is too far apart, or the spacing and the infill is too far apart. If you want TPU to be as the least amount of rigidity as possible, then you just take the infill out and keep taking infill out. You can put 3-4% infill or something like that just for the extra support, and it's going to be super flimsy, non-rigid at all. Or you can just keep adding support in and add support in and add support. You don't need to make the walls thicker. You can just add more support in, or not support but infill, and it's going to make the rigidity so much better. It's going to make it a tougher piece. That's another thing about TPU, is it's not as tough as PLA. PLA is a whole lot stronger of a plastic. It's not that strong, so more infill makes it a tougher piece. Make sure, number 3 on this is when you're setting up your piece, to make sure that you don't have as much support generated around the detailed areas. Like this, the detail is from here and up, so I try to stick that more towards the top. There is some detail here in the back, but it's not really going to matter all that much. And you'll get a really good TPU piece. Those are the 3 main things: your support, your infill, and your placement. And then your speeds. Look at your speeds. Make sure your speeds are low. Alright, so now we have finished all 3 of our TPU prints. I'm going to show you this first. This is the PLA one that it needs to be TPU because it actually fits in here pretty tight. It goes on a drone, and when I tried to squeeze it in here, it just popped the back off. But you can see that it didn't have much infill, and the walls weren't very thick. So that's what it is supposed to look like when you have a more rigid plastic like PLA. You're obviously going to get better results. So you can see just how good that looks as a finished piece. So I wanted to use that for comparison. And we've got 1, 2, and 3. And I'm putting the GoPro Hero 7 in this. And this is going to make it easier to see, because I can come down here and get close to it, and you can kind of see all 3 of these. See the bottom, I've got them print 1, regular PLA settings, print 2, same settings as this. The only thing that I did is slowed down the printing, and then I heightened up the heat. And this one was the settings that I showed you in the earlier part of the video. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. Reason being, because it's got a gray background, so it's going to show you some of the flaws a little bit better. So what I did with 1 and 2 is I went ahead and used what I do with TPU. Sometimes you can get some stringy stuff, and I went along with a soldering iron and cleaned up a lot of the stringiness from it. But you can still tell right in that area there that it's not solid at all. You can see that there's a tooth that's all jacked up down there. The bottom looks really bad. Basically anywhere where the support met, which it had like a 5% support, anywhere where the support met, it doesn't look very good at all. Support met here. That's about the only good one there. You can see kind of the inside of this. And we had, on this one on the back here, we had a lot of these little, you can see right there where the TPU kind of just bunched up right here, here, and here. And when I got it off, it kind of just leaves a scar on the TPU. So, I mean, if this is fine with you, this does the job. I mean, it's a case, and I actually used this one while I was waiting on these ones to print. Does its job. It's a case holder, so if this is fine for you, you can see the skull. The nose area kind of sucks, but you can see it. It looks fine. You know, if that's okay for you, then you can do with, well, I think this took 4 hours to print. This one took about 6 hours to print, and you can already see the difference in the quality right alongside here. I didn't have to use the soldering iron too much on this. The nose area, you can see more of a straight edge here. You can just see the detail a whole lot better. Look at the top there, just how much better that looks. And that's just slowing down the print speed manually on the Creality Ender 3 260. Still got one big scar there. Looked like it tried to do 2 here, but didn't really. Just the one. The inside looks really good. I think this number 2 one looks very good. In fact, this is good enough for me, to be honest with you, and I would definitely be fine with a case like this. The only problem that I have is just how flimsy it is. Super flimsy, not very rigid, and so I'm afraid that with the GoPro in it, and you can really see in the eye how good that was, how good the detail is. That tooth isn't messed up like on the other one. Those little parts look really good. And these each had, it was turned this way, so these each had support on them. And they just look really good. They turned out fantastic. A little bit of a support issue there, but not too much. Barely visible. And then the biggest thing is like here. The biggest difference you're going to see, that's where the bulk, I mean, this had a bunch of support in it. So you can see the difference between the support side and the top side. And then this one, the first one, I mean, it looks terrible. I had to go in here with a soldering iron like crazy and really clean that up. So it was real choppy and messy. You can see how off all that is. This one's extremely flimsy. So, for a little bit more protection, and if you were going to put this, instead of using these clips here, and you were actually going to use the Thingiverse version, and put it on a drone, I would suggest you do something like this, which is a whole lot more rigid, a lot less flimsy. Especially you can just tell in the front, it's taking a lot more squeeze in order to get that to fold up and stuff. This is the third one that I did. Look how good that bottom looks. The detail looks fantastic. Around there looks good. And this one I didn't take any soldering to, so I'm going to go in there, and there's a few little spots down here that I'm going to clean up. That's going to look fine, because all you got to do is take a soldering iron to it and barely touch it, and that stuff just almost disappears. It's really cool. So I just wanted to show you one without any of the soldering stuff on it. This did a fantastic job. I guess I kind of accidentally left a little bit of support in here, so I need to get that out of there. Yeah, I'll have to go clean that out. A little support left in there. But the cool thing about this is all the support from these two I had to rip out, you know, piece by piece by piece. The cool thing about this one is it all came out in one go. Look at that. That's all the support for this piece here. All in one. This is the front part of it, that window area, that little eyeball area, the connection piece. I think that's really cool. You can just kind of go through and just detach it, and it just breaks off into one nice TPU piece. So look at that comparatively to the GoPro. So I guess the last thing to mention in this would be that this one and this one were both basic PLA settings. About 3 or 4 hours for this. I don't know the exact, I don't remember the exact one, but it's all just basic settings. 3% infill, 3 or 5% infill, I can't remember exactly which one. And then your basic regular PLA speed. This one is all the same settings except for slowed down to from 120 to 60 on the speed. The overall speed manually on the Creality Ender 3. And that added an extra couple hours, so this is about 6 hours. And this one was all the settings that we showed you. And this one took about 8 hours to print. So, pick your poison. You can go for speed and not as good, but you know, that'd be good for some people. Kind of the mid area, or what, in my opinion, a lot better. Just a lot better quality. The feel of it is so much better too. It really is. This one has just been so easy everywhere. And this one doesn't. It's rigid. A little bit more rigid. So that is the one that I will be using. I'm going to be using these two as backups in case something were to happen to this. I've got my hat clip here that I printed. I'm just going to show you the good one on here. So that's it on my little. This goes on like the bill of a hat. This just shows you. I just want to show you that it's not shaky. If I was doing this with either one of these, because the infill's so minimal and it's so flexible, the silver and possibly the white would be falling out of the case. But it's just rigid enough to hold it in. And of course, if you had the black, it has the this lens pops out and fits inside here, so it's just a little extra hold. But you can definitely do the silver inside this one really well. You don't have to be worried about it. And it doesn't shake or, I mean, this one here, when I was using it, I mean, it bends like crazy. It's just constantly wobbly. This one's not. Looks really good. So that's a little video on TPU for you guys. If you're already printing TPU really good on the Creality Ender 3, then more power to you. So my name is Bryce Michael RC. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you get updated on when I put out new videos. I do go live every now and then, so you can get on and have live discussions with me. And I'm going to be doing one of these settings videos live, just so I can kind of walk through the aspects of some of this stuff in a little bit more detail live, because I kind of go live for about an hour or two, just so I can get as much in it as possible. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.